Welcome, everybody, to our first Startup Monterey Bay Connect for 2023. Here we go with a new year. Yeah, and we're certainly starting the new year with things having eased up at least a little bit on the lack of rain front. I'm told that the various reservoirs are filling nicely, but that we're still not out of technical drought. So maybe by Sunday we will be. Thank you all for joining us. We're online as a special tonight, and I think it has actually worked out well to be online given what it's like what's going on outside. Hopefully most of our meetings this year will be in person, in real life. As we started last year, and this is the second year, so now I can say this will be the second annual and a tradition to take our January meeting and spend it talking a little bit about what the year is going to look like, not so much from a prediction standpoint, but given that we're all about startups and about innovation, to look at the industries and talk a little bit about what's going on in some of the regional industries around innovation and what is on the radar screen for next stage of what's needed in these industries to keep them at the forefront. We've got a great set of presenters tonight, and I will introduce them in a moment, but let me get started with some of our intro things. Welcome. We're here. A little harder to network when we're online, but we still get to at least see each other. You certainly are welcome to leave your cameras off. I encourage you to have your cameras on so we all remember that you're a live person. We'll be talking about what's happening in the region around entrepreneurship and innovation. Let's roll forward. And we don't want to forget our sponsors and partners that make this a reality and keep all this going. A wide variety of folks, the EDA, James Irvine Foundation, who have been making huge contributions to our region on many levels. We're all appreciative of the James Irvine Foundation these days. Blue Tech Valley Accelerator, Pacific Gas and Electric, First Capital Bank, the Monterey Bay Economic Partnership, who we will hear from tonight with its CEO, Tahra. Thank you for being here. White Summers, Wells Fargo, Bank of America, and of course, the Drone Automation and Robotics Technology Initiative in the person of Josh Metz. Let's roll. Speakers tonight, we have, as I just mentioned, Tahra, the CEO of the Monterey Bay Economic Partnership, to give us a regional view of what are the innovation priorities in the region. Richard Vaughn, Economic Development Manager for the County of Monterey. Dennis Donohue, Director at Western Growers. He has been at the center of AgTech innovation for years and years here and knows all, sees all. Rob O'Keefe, President and CEO of the Monterey County Convention and Visitor Bureau. Rob, relatively new to the region, although he's been here long enough, we'll consider him that he's been here. The man who invented, do I have this right, Rob? The man who invented what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas?
That's partially right. I had a pretty big hand in it. I'm happy to say that Monterey is my rehab from Vegas.
Excellent. Meg Dingae from Montage Health, who has been an incredibly innovative healthcare organization over the past many years, and Josh Metz, the Executive Director of the Monterey Bay Drone Automation and Robotics Technology Initiative. We're looking forward to hearing from them, but we always start with the monthly news quiz. And to do the news quiz, we have our own Rosalind Sandoval. Take it away, Rosalind.
Okay, let's go question number one. I don't have a clicker. Okay. What Startup Challenge 2022 Main Street Division runner-up is providing a high-end, personable, whale watching and wildlife photography experience? Any guesses on this one? Yes, type in your guesses because we will see them too. Someone has had coffee besides me. Well, watching Monterey.
I don't think we have any takers on that. So who is it? Rosalind. We're all curious.
I know. Let's go to the next slide. Let's see. Oceanic Expeditions, brand new company. So we can check them all out.
We love
our whale
Oceanic
watching-
Expeditions. It's actually run by a student who just graduated from CSUMB. She and her fiance run it, and they were also in the Startup Challenge this past year, as was mentioned in the question, and they are doing incredibly well. They've had a very, very successful year.
Great pictures too. Yes. Okay. Let's see. Let's see if you guys do better on question number 2. Okay, I know I'm going to butcher this name, but Toma is a 7th grader from Pacific Collegial School in Santa Cruz, was named the winner of the district's Congress app challenge. What do you think his app does? This is a broad question, but it was in our Santa Cruz newspaper. Yeah, I wish. So I didn't have to wake them up to get kids to wake up on time. Manages homework. No, not quite either. Also wish that was a thing. These are great guesses. Great guesses. Tracks video game scores. Oh, that is also another good one. Not quite. Oh, it's a pill alarm. Yes. Doreen, thank you. We can go to the next. Yes. The pill alarm alerts and it reminds users when to take their medication. So they can set, it's very unique. They can actually set the times very specifically to when they need to take their pills during the day. And he did this for his mom because she has epilepsy. She has something and she needs to take her pills at specific times. So, okay, question number 3. So over the holidays, the Institute joined NC Gives campaign with a project to fund internships for CSUMB students to help startup businesses and nonprofits. How much money do you think we raised?
We wish, Adam.
Yeah, we do wish. That would have been amazing. It was close. It was close. Oh, it's closer. A little lower, a little lower. $10K is probably pretty close.
All right, well, what do we got?
Okay, yeah, let's go to our next slide. So here are our numbers. So almost 15. Yeah, our average donation was about 400. Our largest was 5. We had some challenge donations and some individual donations. So those are some great numbers to take a look at.
The students are very appreciative. This will be great experience for the students and great help to the companies.
Yeah,
Thanks to
we're
all
very
who
excited.
donated.
Yes. Okay, I'm back to you, Brad.
All right, thank you very much, Rosalind, for this month's quiz. You want to win the quiz, you got to be in the know. check out the news feed on the Startup Monterey Bay website and santacruzworks.org for the news that they have. And okay, let's roll. Upcoming events, things happening besides rain. There's more happening. Tomorrow night, actually, the Santa Cruz Works New Tech meetup is happening 6 to 8 p.m. Up in Santa Cruz. Get to hear from some of the key companies to watch. Some of these have been through our startup challenge. Cruise Foam won in 1 year, and Parallel Flight was a runner-up another year. All of these are great companies. Come and see them tomorrow night. The address there, and maybe Lynette, you can drop that into chat so people can click on that link and register for New Tech tomorrow night. If you're going up, I'll see you there. I will be there. Cruise Hacks 2023 is coming up. The largest hackathon in Santa Cruz. It is a great event. January 13th to 15th. So that's coming up this weekend. And if you go to cruisehacks.com, you can find out more about that. What else have we got going on here? Startup Factory coming up soon, February 3rd to 5th. If you are thinking about starting a business, or if you know someone who is thinking about starting a business, this is the place to be on that first weekend of February. Come there, put a team together, either put a team together before you come, or you can put a team together at the event of the people who are there. This used to be called Startup Weekend. For those of you who've been around with us for a while, we've been running it as Startup Weekend. This year we have done a facelift on the name, so it's now Startup Factory, open to students, open to the community, anybody from anywhere. Please help us spread the word for this. It will be live this year at CSUMB. We're going to be at the business building at CSUMB, which is a great location for it. All right, anything else happening? Aha, the Startup Challenge. Going into, if I remember correctly, I think this is our 14th year. I can't count that high. Applications are now open. The deadline is March 6th. So the challenge is coming up. If you're starting a business or know somebody who's starting a business, jump into the Startup Challenge, get all the information and help there is in the challenge, get your business known in the community through the publicity that comes from being in the Startup Challenge. It's been a great event. We've had lots and lots of winners and an amazing number of companies go through the challenge and be successful. Lots of the companies around here came from there. So I think that's the end. Any other events? I think that's it. Well, Get Virtual ongoing. Get Virtual for small businesses who need help getting online. This is a student group that helps businesses set up websites, set up social media, get themselves known in the virtual world. So if you or you know anybody who's looking for help, reach out to us at Get Virtual. The URL is there, and you can also just aim your phone at the QR code. All right, and now the preliminaries are over. It's time for our speakers. And let's find out what's up in 2023. And we'll begin with a regional outlook from Tahra Goraya, the CEO of the Monterey Bay Economic Partnership. Tahra, thank you for being here. And what you got for us?
Thank you for having me. Again, good evening. My name is Tahra Goraya. I'm the president and CEO of the Monterey Bay Economic Partnership. And again, we appreciate your invitation to join you tonight. We can't wait for the next in-person event, but appreciate everyone being here and giving of their time and on the Zoom space. I know it's not always the easiest format, but nevertheless, appreciate that and send our thoughts and prayers to all those that are dealing with the damages up and down our central coast and especially our region. So again, thanks Brad and team. If I can get to slide number 2 or 3. Yes, so just briefly, a brief overview. We are a regional convener. We serve the Tri-County region of Monterey, Santa Cruz, and San Benito with a vision of a thriving region for all residents and to improve the economic health and quality of life in the region. So what does that mean really? It means that we've got several initiatives and we serve largely as a Tri-County convener. We are a member-driven organization, a nonprofit, and roughly a little less than a decade old, so about 9 years old, serving the areas of, as I mentioned, the Tri-County region and the municipalities and the counties directly on a number of initiatives. And on our next slide, we will talk a little bit more about our 4 initiatives or big sort of buckets of work. And they are around housing for all across all income levels, broadband access, economic and workforce development, and policy, education, and advocacy, knowing full well that everything intersects with sustainability and climate issues and water, and what does that really look like? Transportation, as we're advocating for housing across all income levels, where are the transportation nodes, as well as the educational space and across the entire spectrum of early learning and early education through our higher education partners. We partner very closely with our community colleges, CSU, and of course the UC Santa Cruz in our Tri-County region. And the intersection with health, there's nothing that we can do when it comes to economic development and creating a thriving economic region without, again, the vital inputs of all of these sort of sectors. And this is just some of the sort of quality of life related sectors around water and transportation and education and health, and yet recognizing that we have major sectors in our Tri-County region, and that would be more, I'll go into it a little bit more in the economic and workforce development. But we started off, as I said, as a Tri-County convener, and our 4 major areas are around housing, from affordable housing all the way to sort of across the board middle income and everything else, knowing our bottom line, our North Star on housing is really housing production, and making sure we increase that. That is indeed an issue across our nation. Next. We're going to spend the next 2 slides a little bit more about the housing. So a little bit about the philosophy is like, sure, we can do all of this, in silos, but it is always a much better as a partnership, hence our name, the P in our partnership. How can we do this together? Because by doing work together, we can certainly go much farther and really put ourselves not only regionally sort of on the map and leverage resources, but also, for our communities. It's all, I come from both the government sector and the nonprofit and the hybrid of the two. And my experience has always served that working in coalitions and partnerships is the sort of the way to go, and hence how Monterey Bay Economic Partnership was also founded on that principle and what attracted me to the mission of MBEP. Next. And when we talk about housing for all initiative, I get this a lot. So depending on what circles I walk in, either folks think of us as, just promoting market rate housing or just affordable housing. And I always like to take a moment to say, we're talking about housing, period. And that means like across all income levels, all types of units, from affordable to ADUs, the additional sort of units to permanent supportive farm. We work in the farm worker housing space and advocating for that. And it's really a 3-pronged approach, which is advocacy and education and awareness. Where does that sort of align? What's going on at the state and federal level that would impact local and regional policymaking, working with local and regional actors in the policy space, especially around advocacy and looking at different projects that are relevant in our region. We also have what's called a Monterey Bay Housing Trust, which is a separate funds for pre-development loans for those projects that do qualify. Sometimes they don't always qualify for your regular loans. And then employer-sponsored housing. And we're very well aware, whether you're in the health sector, the ag sector, the tourism sector, or in our educational space, our teachers needing affordable employer-sponsored housing. And there's a lot of conversation happening in our Tri-County region as when and how can employers be part of that conversation. So that's our three-pronged approach in our housing. Next. Sorry to talk so fast. I also realize there's so many folks behind me. This is, again, an overview of our Monterey Bay Housing Trust. Thus far, we've invested close to $7 million, nine loans. We partner with Housing Trust of Silicon Valley that provides a match and helps with the sort of the matching in the loan process. So together, we're able to pool our resources, and close to 23 million have been invested in local projects in the last 5 years here in the Monterey Bay region. Next. And second, and this, another project that we work on, an initiative, so to speak, is broadband. Economic development and a thriving economic sort of region also requires a thriving access to broadband and equitable access. So we're looking at the infrastructure, the accessibility, the awareness. How do we reduce the digital divide in our communities, especially rural communities? But again, bottom line, small business, big business, no matter how large your business is, without broadband as a basic sort of utility, it's hard to sort of move the needle on our on the bottom line in our businesses. So there's multi-pronged approach to also broadband. And next slide will be mostly on economic and workforce development. So this is just in two little buckets, meaning we have a regional approach across the Tri-County area and a community development / economic development lens, and across the central coast of 6 counties that stretch from Ventura all the way up to Santa Cruz. We're part of something called Uplift Central Coast. So at MBEP, we're looking at regional economy through a two-pronged approach of recognizing that we do have shared economies in certain sectors, especially when you look at the ag sector is very much a shared economy in our Tri-County. We may be working in the fields in Monterey, but living in, for example, San Benito or Pajaro Valley in Watsonville or Santa Cruz. And so keeping an eye on that regional sort of dynamic, same goes for tourism. And how do we connect those sectors? How do we also upskill and create family sustaining jobs and wages for our workforce? So keeping an eye on those two. Next, sorry. I think I may have added way too many slides. To that end, the items in red are like our main principles, sort of initiatives that we lead at Monterey Bay Economic Partnership on behalf of the Tri-County regions. One is Regions Rise Together. The other is Central Broadband Consortia, South Salinas Valley Broadband in the South Monterey County, and Community Economic Resilience Fund up in the northern part. The others that are mentioned around SIDE, Rise Together, and Regional Climate Collaboratives, these are collaboratives that we partner with, but are not the leads on. And this just gives you a tiny flavor of when we think of sort of various partnerships. And I think that's where innovation really happens, when we bring people together in the room, whether they be nonprofit, municipalities, sector leaders, for-profit, everyone into the room and at the same table. That's, I think, when innovation really strikes. And I think that's what to look for, because there's some really good work happening, but how do we lift off of that? Next. And this is briefly like the Uplift Central Coast that I briefly mentioned. It stretches from Santa Cruz all the way to Ventura County. It is we are co-leads with Ventura EDC and REACH. And stay tuned for more information in that we are going after state and federal funds that could leverage more resources into our region around economic resilience, but also in the aviation and aeronautics space. And that these three sort of projects just briefly outline that. One is SURF, and that, as I mentioned, the National Science Foundation opportunity. Hopefully that may come our way to truly create an aeronautics and aviation corridor on the West Coast. And so there's a lot of partners right here, even on our call. You hear more from Dart and Josh shortly about the art of the possible there, as well as in our educational space. We work with the K-16 Regional Collaborative, which is led by UC Santa Cruz, and really bringing all of the UC, the CSUs, the community colleges, the school districts, everyone up and down the coast, again, in this served 6-county region, about what the pathways for workforce could look like. And informing that would require all of our sectors and all of our community members. And so these are just type of circles that we are part of, and we always want to figure out ways to plug our business community into. Next. And this, I'm not going to go too much into this, but this is a community economic resilience fund, is a state opportunity that was announced, but we're waiting for more details. And this is about, again, bringing different sectors together, whether that's the educational sector, the entrepreneur startup sector, the government, young professionals, everyone together, creating what's called a high road transition collaborative, which is a fancy way of saying coming together and creating family sustaining, high paying jobs. And the next one is on space and aeronautics. Briefly, this is kind of how we're currently defining ourselves if funded. And the reason why I'm sharing this is, so we don't know what the new year will bring for our region, but I think what it is going to bring, and some of the assets we've already identified, is that we are in fact, as a 6-county region, as well as a tri-county region here up in the Monterey Bay, a strong hub for innovation, especially in the space and aeronautics arena. And there is a lot of potential to explore that in the future months, in the near future, with or without the National Science Foundation sort of funding. So I think this is really exciting and something that I wanted to share. For those of, many of you already are aware, some may not be, but again, a space where there's a lot of room for creativity. And innovation and sectors that would support, whether it's a drone or air mobility technologies. And then I'm going to conclude with this sort of comment here about the process. I think, again, partnerships are really critical for innovation. And on our next slide, we just have ways that you can connect, find out about how to become a member, to follow us. At the end of the day, we cannot do anything in isolation as an organization. And I think all of us on here sort of recognize that. I would think of all the speakers who will come next, to drive the innovation, truly create a regional thriving economy requires all of our sectors, right? And there's some phenomenal work happening in the ag and ag space and the ag tech, not to mention the aeronautics space, the tourism space, and so on and so forth. And you'll hear from all of those individuals and our partners in the health sector. But at MBEP, we're just keenly very interested in making sure there's ways to leverage local, regional resources, but also state and federal resources, whether that be in the broadband, the economic development space, and the education and policy and housing space, because there is so much work to be done. And as we create more programming, that also means, we need housing to support that, and requires all of our advocates here on this call too, to be advocates in that space, and also think about what employer-sponsored housing might look like, depending on what sectors you represent. So I'm going to leave it there. I think I've exceeded my 10 minutes at this time, or 8 minutes, and I appreciate everyone's sort of time and attention, and know that we are here in Marina, physically located to serve the entire Tri-County region. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tahra, and thank you very much for all the work that you and the Monterey Bay Economic Partnership do to support our region. We've got a few questions in chat. One, let's see, question from Eric Andreessen. Are there any ongoing proposals for community broadband in the Tri-County area?
That's a very good question. It's one of those ongoing sort of needs, and certainly something we're constantly exploring. Most recent community, I think we were able to light up about 3 months ago with the help with Cruise.io and the County of Monterey and a number of other partners, was a San Gerardo farm worker co-op with fixed wireless nodes. We are looking to do more broader sort of access and community access. Certainly South, Salinas Valley Broadband Authority that was stood up back in July is looking into that too. How can South Monterey cities who are not as resourced can also embark on that. So we're partnering with the Golden State Connect Authority and others to look at funding. They were all successful in securing a lot of funding to the tune of collectively 2.5 million. So I think it's just one small step towards that goal of a mixed of broadband access, whether that's wired, wireless, community, and also looking at smart cities and what that could mean for our unique region of the state where we're, quasi-rural at the same time. So to answer your question, yes, we are looking at community broadband.
Are there any other questions that people have that you would like to pose? As we go, by the way, as the speakers are speaking, feel free to put your questions into chat and we'll make sure that we get to them. Rachel also put into chat several different links to MBEP, and their social media and their website if you want to get more information about what they are up to or get involved with MBEP even better. Thank you very much again, Tahra. Thank you for being here. And that brings us to our next speaker, Richard Vaughn, who is the Economic Development Manager for Monterey County. Richard, what have you got for us?
Hey, how's it going, Brad and everyone? Thank you again for the invitation to this. And thanks for allowing the county go ahead and jump in and partner on this. Like Brad said, my name's Richard Vaughn. I am the Economic Development Manager for Monterey County. And we can go ahead and go to the next slide. And I don't necessarily have a broad regional outlook for you, as economic development isn't really a business industry. But what I did want to focus on is going into 2023, the county is doing so many different things that I wanted to hone in on some of the economic development services and small business and startup businesses, support services and resources that are available. So just wanted to let you all know economic development here at the county is your partner in business. We want to make sure that you are successful. Your success is our success. As successful as you are, that brings in the tax dollars here at the county level to keep us going. So some of the things that your tax dollars are going to are a number of these different services that are provided to any business across the county. So we have things that range from site selection assistance down to one-on-one business assistance, doing different types of demographic reports, project facilitation. So one way that you can look at it is economic development here in the county is your business liaison. So we are here to help you out if you are hitting any dead ends or coming up against any roadblocks here at the county. Feel free to reach out. It's a lot easier for someone internal to the county to reach out to planning or another department here within the county to help you out and get you moved through the system here and try to get your project going forward. We know that with business, time is money. So we want to make sure that we shorten that amount of time that you're going through our planning department, you're going through the permitting, you're having to work with our health department. So anything that we can do to try to provide you with a level of assistance, feel free to reach out. There's a whole host of different things that we can provide assistance on as well, such as regulatory and tax assistance. We've built good relationships at the state level, at the federal level. So feel free to reach out for those. We can provide you with one-on-one support to go ahead and get you, whether it's support letters or get you into specific programs that can help you through some of these challenging times, specifically coming out of COVID, and then also with these storms that are coming through as well. And then go ahead and move on to the next slide. All right. So some of the business resources that are available to you. I went ahead and I listed everything under the sun that I can think of and some of the things that are pertinent currently. So here at the county, if you're not aware, we do have a small business revolving loan fund. So that is in the range of as low as $10,000 to $250,000 per loan, and this can be for fixed or operational costs. There are certain parameters that you have to meet, and we do partner with Cal Coastal. I see Cindy on the call. We do partner with them. They help us with all of our underwriting and vetting the businesses as they go through this process to see if you are eligible for these loan funds. So that's one of our big programs that we provide here at the county level. So feel free to reach out if there's any assistance that is needed, especially going through everything that's happening recently. If you need a business loan, feel free to reach out. And then we have our, if you're not aware of it, our County of Monterey Workforce Development Board. So for those of you businesses who may not have an HR team or an HR officer, we have a free HR hotline. Feel free to give that number a call. They are available during business hours and are able to help you out. So if you have an HR question, don't try to tackle it yourself. Feel free to reach out. Someone is there to help you out. And then we also have workforce training assistance. So for those of you that may not know, businesses that are considered a micro business, a small number of employees within your business, we have a micro business assistance program that is ongoing right now. It still has not been fulfilled. So feel free to reach out. I can get you the links to that to submit your application. It's I believe it's right around $2,500 that is available by grant. So this is not a loan. This is not anything that you have to pay back. It's a grant that's available to you due to the recent COVID pandemic and everything that has happened, try to get you back up on your feet. And then we also have our Central Coast Recycling Market Development Zone. So for those of you that are interested in starting up a green business, a business that's manufacturing and using recycled products or using recycled feedstock, feel free to reach out. This zone is across the entire Central Coast. And if you are interested in purchasing a building, purchasing equipment, anything of that nature, you may be eligible for certain types of loans or certain types of grants, depending on what type of product you are producing. So please reach out in regards to that. And then another plug for Cindy over at Cal Coastal. So we have our Small Business Development Center here in Salinas. Feel free to reach out. We'd be happy to go ahead and make a connection to them if you're looking at starting up a business and wanting to develop a business plan. They have a whole host of different workshops and trainings that are available to individuals that are interested in starting up a business here in Monterey County. And then from the state side, so these are some of the things that we can plug you into. And one of the things that you should be aware of now is the California Competes Tax Credit. So this is a program that's free to apply for. It started January 3rd and will be wrapping up January 23rd of this year. This is just the second part of it. I believe they will have another round of funding should it permit the amount of funds that are available for the next round. But currently there is $120 million in tax credits that are available. So if you are a business and you are needing tax credits moving forward through the end of this year, feel free to reach out. I can get you the links to that. We may be able to post those at the end of this call, but feel free to reach out. I'd be happy to plug you into that and get you some information, so that way you can go ahead and submit those applications through and get you some tax credits for the end of the year. And then we also have our California Manufacturing and Research and Development Equipment Exemption. So if you're not aware of it, there is a program that's offered by the state of California to allow for sales and use tax exemption on manufacturing, research and development, and power generation and production. So if you fall within any of those categories, you may be eligible to purchase certain pieces of equipment for your manufacturing process and get tax right off the top taken off. So generally about 50% of the tax. So if you're paying 9%, 10% tax, you may be able to get up to 4 to 5% of that taken off right at the till. So when you're paying for that $1 million piece of equipment, or if you're a startup and you're paying for a smaller piece of equipment, that tax can really kill you in the end. So we're trying to help you out with that, and I can get you connected to somebody at the state who can help you. We also have our employment training panel. So this is the state level workforce assistance, workforce training assistance. So we have our workforce development board here at the county level who can assist you with that. But then we also have our employment training panel provided at the state level who can help with providing any type of workforce training or getting you certain dollars for workforce training as well. And then for those of you, big power users in the area. If you're not aware, PG&E economic development rate provides a 12 to 25%. It's called their EDR rate, economic development rate. So for businesses who are high power users, if you are needing some type of assistance to go ahead and stay here in Monterey County and continue to grow and expand here, they have certain parameters that you have to meet. But we can get you connected to Lawrence over there, and he'd be happy to help you out and see what we can do. And next slide, please. All right. And one of the big programs that has come out, this is our going forward in 2023. It started just this past year. So we are working in partnership with Monterey County Business Council on our Building Business Back program. So this program is designed to assist minority-owned businesses, small businesses, and businesses in underserved areas of Monterey County. So if you fall into any one of those categories, feel free to reach out. I'd be happy to connect you with Paul, who is heading this program up for us. They're providing all sorts of different workshops and technical assistance, and continuing to add to the toolbox there and see what we can do to try to help you out. So here's a list, the 4 right there, a list of different programs that are available. But if there's anything else that's needed, any type of assistance for businesses that fit within those categories, we'd be happy to connect you to Building Business Back and see what we can do to continue to help you thrive and succeed here in Monterey County. And next slide. All right. And there's my contact information. If you need to reach out, feel free anytime.
Excellent. Great, Richard. We've got some cool questions here in chat.
All right.
One coming once Jan Thorne, I'm in Gilroy at the San Benito border. We plan on doing zero carbon building in Monterey County. Are we eligible for any help? Is there anything they could come to you for with that? Zero carbon construction.
Zero carbon construction, please reach out. You may be eligible for certain types of grants or loan funding that is available through the RMDZ program set up by CalRecycle. So definitely reach out. I can go ahead and plug you in and we can see what we can help you out with.
Thanks. I missed your phone number though. Could you put it in the chat?
No problem.
Thanks.
Cool. And you mentioned some grants available for training assistance. Are there other grants available for small businesses?
Yes. So we do have a micro business grant that's available through our workforce development department currently. I don't know if it is maxed out yet. It may not just yet be. And I see Cindy shaking her head no. So I think that's a thumbs up that we still have funding available through that. We do have loans that are available. I wouldn't say grants, loans that are available through Monterey County and also through CalCoastal. They provide you with small business loans as well. So if you don't fit within one of those categories of the micro grant, the small business grant through CalCoastal, we do have a loan program that's set up through Monterey County that can try to assist you. Outside of that, I'm not too aware of any other grants that are available for small businesses, but there are tax assistance programs that are available through California Competes Tax Credit and other tax programs that are available that I'd be happy to sit down and discuss with whoever is reaching out on that.
Cool. And with the county loan fund, should they go to your office or should they go to Cindy over at CalCoastal SBDC?
Either or. So whatever way you're able to get connected, that's the best. Feel free to reach out to me and I'll shoot you over to our representative over at CalCoastal, or you can connect with Cindy and Cindy would be happy to send you over there as well.
Cool. Excellent. Cindy, you might want to drop your, if you haven't already, I may have missed it, your contact information into chat because we should all be talking to you all the time.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you very much, Richard. Any other questions? All right, then let's move to our next speaker, Dennis Donohue, to tell us what's going on in ag tech besides lots and lots of water. Whoop, you are still muted, Dennis.
Well, like I always tell everyone, it's ag tech. I'm ag. I occasionally forget the tech part. I'm muted, so my apologies. Thanks for catching that. I appreciate the invitation to visit with you, and just very quickly before I kind of tell you the priorities of ag tech and the specialty crop crowd. Just a quick reminder: Western growers. We're kind of a unique organization, a service corporation. Our members are essentially the family farming corporations, California, Arizona, Colorado, and New Mexico focus fresh fruits, vegetables, and nuts. So that's us. We like all of agriculture. We cheer for all of agriculture, but our focus is fresh fruits, vegetables, and nuts. And our group represents about 50+% of North America's production in those categories, and nearly half of that also of the organic production in North America as well. And the way we operate reflects one of the realities about ag tech. It's a global game, and so our members are operating, sourcing from 32 states, obviously selling all of them, and then selling and operating and sourcing in some 20 to 30 countries. So from a specialty crop standpoint, just like the Midwest is kind of the breadbasket, California is really the show when it comes to specialty crops. So that's what we do. The Innovation Center is the strategic arm of Western Growers as a group to utilize innovation and technology for the purposes of, instead of reacting to the future, can we help create it or respond in a more timely fashion? That said, when we got started a few years ago, our priorities were food safety, always looking for that elusive kill step. We knew labor was an issue, and I'll elaborate on that. And at the time, we were in a drought, and the reality is droughts are kind of a function of policy and infrastructure. But when you're looking at, you have to do more or less and keep score. Water is certainly the most high profile resource where, how do we do more with less? And it really sets up big data and precision ag and all the tools associated with it. And really that agenda beyond water has expanded with, new additional regulatory things coming down the pike from Sacramento and elsewhere. So that's kind of the backdrop. In terms of the priorities, food safety is always there. That never goes away, and that's a perennial. But the labor issue remains front and center. And one of the things I would share, and for the local community as well, and I think this is important for the groups that are on the call and students and that type of thing, is that we do work with startups and try and connect them with our grower base. And what I tell people is, we're not an innovator, we're not an accelerator. We like all those things, we cheer for all those things, but our job is really to kind of help people cross the finish line and help in the co-development process. And one of the things that's shifted in recent years is we do want to deal with individual companies that come to us, that we network to meet, but we've started to work more intentionally, because our critical problems, we don't think we have the luxury of time. Now, just because you don't have the luxury of time means you can cut corners. But for instance, in the automation marketplace, things like thinning, weeding, functions that are repetitive in nature, the market is making the progress you would expect. But harvesting remains a challenge. And I always like to tell people, I used to think R2D2 was going to do everything in the field, and the reality is R2D2 is only going to do the repetitive stuff, and you need CP30 for harvesting. And when you have to replicate a human being, that becomes a lot more challenging. And so we have organized a global harvest automation initiative, working all over the world to try and accelerate commercialization of those technologies. Best guess from someone we respect from the UK is those technologies become commercial 2030. We'd like to go faster, but the idea we have to work intentionally. So automation, big deal. The other thing that is emerging this year, and Salinas will be hosting a major biological summit in June, is the whole area of crop inputs. And you can loosely summarize it as whether it's social currency, whether it's regulatory changes, if is less chemistry, more biology. So there is, and regardless of what the economy looks like in the coming year, the reality is you're going to see continued investment in this particular area of biologicals and new tools, and that too is a global issue. So we're organizing a major initiative around how do we accelerate identification and adoption of the best tools. The third area that will remain important is and it kind of tracks along the waterfront. We're going to see the increasing digitization of all things on the farm. So that becomes a setup for all of the tools of precision ag, whether it's apps, that type of thing, or sensors. You're starting to see more, for instance, it kind of tracks back to the automation area, but targeted spraying and those sorts of things, because the regulatory issues become more prevalent in the day-to-day life of ag. So for instance, in our neck of the woods, a lot of people are paying attention to the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act. You have to keep score exactly, whether it's for state, and that really kind of transitions into some of the social currency issues, whether major customers are going to be talking about carbon sequestration, carbon capture, et cetera. So obviously we're going to be interested in tools for our growers to meet those objectives of the various parties. And then the last thing I would say is I'll just echo some of the workforce comments. We've really concluded one of the things that's going to slow down adoption is the lack of skills or training, possibly in all probability, in terms of you can invest in it, you can make it, but somebody's got to operate it, somebody's got to service it, and those skills are going to be very critically. So we've jumped into the workforce development fray with a next generation ag program that I've worked with California Secretary of Ag, Karen Ross, and we've been moving throughout the state to identify what the issues are in terms of preparing for the workforce tomorrow. Some of it the marketplace will take care of in terms of, I sold something, I have to service it, I have to train. So some of those things will happen, but we do think, and on the prep side, that there's going to have to be more teacher education and specific curriculum development. So we've received a grant from the California Department of Food and Agriculture, and we're working throughout the state, setting up shop around curriculum development, internships, and that type of thing. So those are basically the things that are top in mind for the specialty crop crowd, as we refer to ourselves, in Monterey County. Brad, I think, Brad, you're muted, I think.
There we go.
Okay.
Computer is, thank you very much. We got a question asking about the size of the labor market around harvesting automation. How big do you think the demand is going to be? Do you have any handle on that?
Well, kind of the working number in California, in terms of on-farm labor is $750,000 plus, but obviously all of that does not pertain to harvesting. And I think I would say the harvesting focus has been the more labor intensive crops. So for instance, and it's important to note that this is a good thing about Salinas Valley or Monterey County Ag, a lot of it is value added. So for instance, lettuce, if you're just doing flat pack lettuce, commodity lettuce, that is labor intensive. If you're going into a processing plant, that's a minimal crew and a belt and a bin, and you go. So changing products and adding value to products addresses some of these issues. But the crops that are the most labor intensive, that are getting the closest look and the most activity, lettuce and romaine, obviously strawberries and table grapes. Those have been things like broccoli and cauliflower. Broccoli has also been one, and I think the working number for strawberry harvesting is 45,000, and that frankly is one of the challenges we have. Monterey, agriculture looks very big to us, but to the investment community, not so big. And so, for instance, the traditional funders of a lot of innovation, the venture crowd, they're not interested in hardware. The returns not big enough. So one of the challenges we have as an industry is, strawberries are big to us, but not so big to the broader investment community. Which is not to say things don't happen, because they do, but the industry has to self-fund a lot of this. Though I think you're starting to see, and one of the reasons we initiated the Global Harvest Automation Initiative is we felt we had to leverage a broad cross-section of crops and change it from an ag issue to a technology issue, where if you think about harvesting, you're looking at something, you're reaching for something, you're separating from something, and you've got mobility in the field, and those all become technology issues. So, Brad, you and I are probably old enough to remember, Dustin Hoffman in The Graduate. I got one word for you: plastics.
Plastics.
If I were to have two words for this group, I'd say artificial intelligence. That the emergence of AI as it moves into the ag space is going to change a lot of things.
Yes, and I think we'll hear more about AI in some of the areas also. That's just a huge area. All right, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I appreciate it. And we all keep our eye on ag because it is such a huge part of our economy here. And thank you for all the contributions you've made to keeping Salinas Valley ag at the world forefront.
Well, and that's a team sport, but I think everyone should be really pleased that, while ag tech is a global game, Salinas and Monterey County is on the circuit. I mean, we are a global destination, so that's good news when you're trying to attract innovation and investment and that type of thing.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you to Dennis. And next up, we have Rob O'Keefe to tell us about what's going on in the hospitality industry, always a vibrant industry in this region. Rob is the CEO of the Monterey County Convention and Visitor Bureau. Rob, you got any great sayings for us? What happens in Monterey County the world knows?
Well, we're working on it, actually. As a matter of fact, I'll talk about that in a minute. Let me talk just a little bit about who we are. We are the Convention and Visitors Bureau. So if you are frustrated during Car Week or other parts of the year when we've got tourists here and it takes you 10 minutes to get to Safeway instead of 7 minutes to get to Safeway, that's us. That's what we do. And we're happy to do it because there's a big payoff for the destination. I appreciate following up on the agriculture update because ag is #1 in the county. Tourism is #2 in the county. as an industry, and number one on the peninsula, and both are obviously very important. And both there, when we talk about innovation and ag tech, the intersection between the two is becoming more and more of an opportunity for us. But a little bit about us real quick. We're a 501c6 organization. At our peak before COVID, we had 38 people. COVID took us down to 9 people, but we're building back, and we're about 20 people right now. Our focus is countywide, and Richard Vaughn is one of our partners at the county level, so we work very closely with Richard. I see tourism is a form of economic development in a variety of different ways. So we're very appreciative to be working with county and multiple cities within the county. And our job is simply to drive overnight visitation, which contributes to the things that we enjoy living here, which I'll talk a little bit more about. Also, when we talk about innovation, we're very big on sustainability. I am, as a matter of fact, I am the chair of a statewide California Travel Association. They launched their first ever sustainability and stewardship committee this year, and they asked me to be the chair of that committee, which is no small amount of pressure, but we have a very good reputation outside our county for the things that we're doing from a sustainability standpoint. And that's really a big hub of opportunity for growth, ranging from CSUMB's Sustainable Hospitality Management Program to things that are being done at Pebble Beach with water conservation. And there's just an enormous amount of stories to be told on what the aquarium has done, and a variety of other businesses. So sustainability is very big part of what we're doing. In fact, there's someone on this Zoom who's looking past sustainability towards regenerative economies. So that's the next horizon in a variety of ways. But sustainability is a big part of what we do and how we do it. But let's jump into this. I wanted to give you a sense of where we've been, where we're at, and where we're going. So if we go to the next slide. I wanted to start because I'm very grateful to be a part of this forum, and I appreciate being invited. So I wanted to impart some wisdom from that great 20th century philosopher, Phil Collins. In learning, you will teach, and in teaching, you will learn. And that same goes for sharing, which we're all doing this evening, and I'm glad to be a part of. Phil is a big influence. I'm going to talk more about Phil in a bit. Let's go to the next slide. So I get asked a lot about where the tourism industry has been before COVID, and then what happened during COVID. Tourism is obviously a huge part of our economy and jobs, employment picture. And in 2019, before COVID, $3.2 billion industry, keeping $153 million of taxes here in our community, and in generating over 27,000 jobs. When COVID hit, if you go to the next slide, you can see what happened. Essentially, the industry got cut in half in terms of spending, and that's what visitors, people outside our destination, come here, and the money that they leave, and then the translation to how that turns into tax and in jobs. And at one point, we were slightly about half of the jobs in the industry were either let go, temporarily laid off, or just truncated hours. So it had a very big impact. But we're coming through that. So let's go to the next slide. The question is, where are we at right now? And these three numbers represent a picture of that. We're not back yet. We're working on it, and we're working on it aggressively, and we're getting there. So if you go to the next slide, that 93% is countywide occupancy. That's just a measure of how many people are staying here overnight visitors. So we are 93% of where we were in 2019. Sounds pretty good, right? 88% of where we were from an employment standpoint. Also good, making progress. And the job market right now is pretty tough because it's hard to find people, as I think everyone on this Zoom would understand to a certain degree. Where we're hurting, one of the areas still, is with groups and meetings. These are people who bring their meetings to the Monterey Conference Center or the Hyatt Conference Center or to a variety of other properties that have and serve groups and meetings. The group traveler is about 2.5 times more valuable than the leisure traveler. What I mean by that is how much they spend. So they're very valuable, very competitive market to get them, but they're also desirable because typically when they come here, one of the things they're not bringing with them are their cars. And so they have, generally speaking, a lighter impact on the destination, which from a sustainability standpoint is hugely important for us. So we're gaining ground, but we have a ways to go. A lot of people talk about, the next slide, please, measuring where we're at as an industry, an individual business, as a community, getting back to normal. And we've challenged that statement, getting back to normal. First of all, what exactly is normal? Is 2019 normal? We looked at the situation, COVID. The silver lining of COVID was that it provided us a destination-wide inflection point to say, we've seen what happened when hospitality gets cut in half. How can we come back better? Do we just try to get back to where we were before? Or do we focus on doing something beyond that? The next slide. And that's our focus. And it has been our focus for over 18 months. Really challenging conventional wisdom. What we found out was in COVID, it forced us to innovate. And I know we talk, and you've been talking a lot about innovation. And I think that's a core to what Monterey Bay Connect is about. But innovation's hard. People don't want to innovate. People like predictability and doing things the same way in general. So innovation doesn't always come easy, and that's why I think this is such a terrific forum to be about, because we're talking about it. But what the COVID situation forced us to do is to find new and different ways to do things just to survive. So we wanted to capture some of that thinking. Minds have never been more open. Hearts have never been more open to doing things differently. So we wanted to capture that spirit. And on the next slide, I can explain a process, a year-long process that we just completed recently to develop a new 10-year strategic roadmap. I was asked from some of my board members, is this really a good time to really be looking that far out in the future? I said, there's no better time, because people are really thinking in different ways. So in the past year, we led a process that reached out to the community and asked a variety of folks, ranging from residents associations, and sometimes residents don't always love tourists. I'm part of the Carmel Resident Association myself, and I can tell you sometimes they don't love tourists. We talked to a variety of people. We did over 240 surveys. We held town halls, focus groups. We did interviews with elected officials, with visionaries like Julie Packard at the aquarium, with a variety of entrepreneurs. And we developed a long-term strategic roadmap, which has lots and lots and lots and lots of detail. And I'm going to give you my my email address at the end of this, as well as our community relations manager, so you can contact us and learn about that detail. But I'm going to boil it down in the interest of time. On the next slide, the core to our vision and mission is an organization to drive destination marketing to succeed for our community, shifted significantly. I would say it went from a more transactional approach. Yeah, get people to visit here and do it responsibly in terms of our vision, to really focusing on what's the most important part of what we do. What's the most important outcome? It's to drive economic vitality for our community. It's to support quality of life for our community. That's what we're here for. And how we do that from a mission standpoint, it's a focus on community prosperity and responsible promotion for the growth of the tourism economy. Those were major pivots in terms of how we look at ourselves and how our industry has looked at itself in terms of what we're ultimately trying to achieve. So on the next slide, one of the things in this whole process of self-discovery as an organization and an industry is that we learned that we are a world-class destination with a second-class budget. You all may think because we live in a beautiful area and a beautiful region that tourists will come here naturally. Well, we are beautiful and we're amazing. We're world-class. But so too might be said of Napa or Sonoma or Santa Barbara and these other destinations that we compete with, and they're better armed in terms of how they compete. So the hospitality community is stepping up in order to address that. So if you go to the next slide, we did a study, a third-party study done by Tourism Economics. Tourism Economics is a global company, basically the smartest people in the world when it comes to this kind of stuff. And the plan that we put together, that I'm not going into detail in, but I'd be happy to if you wanted to later, and of course questions now, showed us that if we do a few more things differently, if we innovate, and if the hospitality community steps up to increase their investment in the success of our community's well-being, we can achieve over the next decade about $2.2 billion of incremental growth, which is going to drive TOT. That's basically the thing that pays for a lot of our livelihood, sales tax, and employment. So we've got a big picture and we've got a big focus on how we're going to do that. Because ultimately on the next slide, like I said, what's this all about? It's about community quality of life. Tourism pays for parks, first responders, libraries, livelihood. And that's a major part of our focus. Now, before you think, and I'd love to have questions on this, do we need to bring a whole bunch more people here to achieve that goal? And the question is no. It's how we do what we do and who we focus on is how we're going to achieve that goal. And I'm going to turn back to that philosopher from the last century. In his words, on the next slide, what we need to do is focusing on extending the stay. Now, I know some of you got the tune in the back of your head as soon as this slide came up. One more night. One more night equals, this is extending the stays, without bringing a single additional person here, achieves $877 million of economic impact. Now, we do need to bring more people here during the off season, and that's our focus. But overall, extending the stay, preserving and protecting our destination, encouraging responsible, respectful travel. That's how we all win. And I promised Josh Metz that I would not sing the song One More Night because that would be a turnoff at the end of this presentation. But we are indeed at that point, and I appreciate your attention, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Great, thanks, Rob. We got a couple of questions in there. You got a clap from Josh for, I guess, for not singing. He seems to be appreciative of that. Zhao asks, do you know what percentage of the total county taxes that 153 million is? Just to give people a sense of.
To be clear, the 153 is a total, it's a cumulative, so it's not just the county, but it's the jurisdictions within. So I don't have that number, but I'd be happy to get that number on this, and anything I can't answer now. Alyssa, who's on the Zoom with us, who is our new community relations manager, we're happy to get that information and follow up. It's a considerable portion. The county itself is somewhere north of $30 million in TOT. The city of Monterey alone was $33 million last year in TOT. So it's a pretty significant part of the general fund.
Cool. And recognizing that Monterey County actually does extend well beyond the peninsula, we do have a question about what's happening in the Salinas and outer part of the county relative to the MC.
So we used again COVID as an opportunity to open new doors, and we've always promoted Salinas in South County. Salinas is one of the jurisdictions that's part of our program. Kimberly Craig, the mayor there, is on our board. So we've always focused there, but we also focused on District 3, South County. But we took a step up, and in the past couple of years, we've invited as sort of unofficial advisors on our board, Mayor Mike Labar from King City, Mayor Ana Velasquez from Soledad, and we're in contact with Greenfield and Gonzalez to promote what's happening there. And we're looking, there's a lot of innovation going on there. The River Road area and the wineries there, they're bringing in different types of events and activities that encourage additional travel. That's spurring additional innovation. For example, we're just starting off to work with MST to talk about transportation. We want to bring fewer people here, or people here with fewer cars. How do we get them around? We're working with an organization called Park It, and their goal is to reduce traffic on the Highway 1 corridor, both for Point Lobos and down to Big Sur. So yeah, the South County area and Salinas are very important. It's a lot easier, and if you think about the next 10 years, it's a lot easier to open a hotel in King City than it is along the coast. And there's growth potential there.
Cool. Excellent. Thank you very much, Rob. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Brad. Thank you, everyone.
Absolutely. All right. And our next sector, the healthcare sector, rather large around here. We have Meg Dingae. Am I pronouncing that correctly, Meg?
That's pretty good. Yep.
Excellent. Thank you for joining us from Montage Health.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. Yeah, I'll try to go through these really quickly because I know we don't have a lot of time left. But just by way of introduction, I'm Meg Dingae. It's actually Dingae, but that's okay. And I'm the director of digital health here at Montage Health. Really nice to meet you virtually, and thanks for having me tonight. Just a little background on me. I've been here on the peninsula with Montage Health for a little shy of 2 years now. I moved from Colorado. And I was hired to develop a centralized digital health program across our organization that really enhances our patient experience and helps to solve various clinical and administrative gaps that we have. So prior to coming here, I was with Kaiser Permanente in a strategy role, and really my entire career and passion has been helping healthcare organizations innovate and think about different ways to provide care to their patients. So what it means to innovate has certainly looked different over the course of time. So some of you who are from the peninsula might know that the current CHOMP hospital building was actually designed by a world-renowned architect, Edward Durrell Stone, back in 1962. And he was an innovator. He was really ahead of his time. He was thinking about how to include aspects of art and nature in his buildings. And that's why if you've been to our hospital, we have a giant koi pond in the middle of our lobby. We've also got lots of lights. We have huge skylights, large windows, beautiful courtyards. And all of these features are principles of a healing environment, and they've actually been proven to make patients better. So we really do walk the walk at Montage when it comes to patient care and experience when our community members are in our four walls. And now the focus is to continue that legacy by leveraging digital solutions so that we can also provide the best possible care to our patients, really from anywhere, if they're at home or work or anywhere they want to be engaged. So when I began this role, the first thing that I did, of course, was assess the current state. And what I learned is that, oh, I'm so sorry, you're not switching slides, are you? There we go. This was Edward Durrell, and then you can go to the next one. Okay, so this is where I am right now. Apologies. What I learned is really we had no shortage of digital tools across the Montage Health enterprise, and we were really quite innovative. But the problem is that we weren't implementing our digital solutions without we didn't have a cohesive strategy. And we ended up with way too many technology vendors and digital tools, and they were, oftentimes solving for the exact same problem. They're working against each other, and what that can feel like to our patients is super confusing. It's disparate, it's unaligned, it's annoying, and we were actually hearing from our patients that this wasn't working for them. What we were doing was not working for them. So the bottom line is we weren't meeting our customers' expectations, and as other speakers have mentioned, that those expectations have rapidly evolved with COVID, and people are getting used to, if they hadn't already been working from home, the ease of use of Amazon, they're ordering food through DoorDash, Grubhub. So really, patients are expecting something very different from their healthcare partners as they are from other industries. And you can switch to the next slide there. So another thing I learned in my assessment is that really Montage Health had been laser focused on telehealth. So that's really taking that in-person visit and just flipping it to a virtual visit. And digital health is that, but it's so much more than that. It's about convenience. It's about patient experience. It's about connection, engagement. You know, digital health is caring for people at home with remote devices. It could be using automated text pings to remind somebody to take their medication. It's allowing patients to self-schedule online. It can be how a patient finds information on our website about providers. So it's really our opportunity to differentiate ourselves in the market and engage our community however they want to be engaged, and really put patients in the driver's seat of their care. Next slide. So we developed this vision statement, which is really the foundation of our digital health strategy. It's to improve lives with the most seamless, exceptional, consistent, and accessible digital health program possible that engages community members, patients, providers, and staff across the entire health journey. And you can go to the next slide. Thanks. And this strategy that we developed, this vision, includes a couple of core missions. And the first is to meet our patients where they are, so they get to choose when, where, and how they engage with us. Next slide. And part of that means building an all-inclusive, patient-friendly portal where all of our digital health tools can live, so that patients don't have to fumble with multiple passwords and logins, and they really just have one place to go to communicate with us, to access education, to access information like wayfinding, launch a virtual visit, schedule their appointment, view their medical record, and so on and so on. Next slide. And then meeting patients where they are also means caring for patients at home through remote patient monitoring devices. This is a really big strategy for Montage Health in 2023. We're working on launching a remote patient monitoring for our chronically ill patients. So our providers can keep an eye on their health. They can, intervene when necessary, and really improve patients' conditions while keeping them out of the hospital in the emergency department. So really caring for them at home. And it was kind of cool during the quiz there to hear that there's a student who developed a pill app. So medication adherence is so important, and we're actually piloting an adherence monitoring program right now with our heart failure patients. It's a partnership with a startup company called Hido Health. They're up north, and they have a device that actually, it looks just like a Keurig, but instead of dispensing coffee, it dispenses important medications at the right dose and the right time. And it even has a facial recognition software, so we can ensure it's actually even the right patient, and it video records the patient taking their medication, which is reviewed by a pharmacist. So we're actually, we're seeing incredible outcomes with just this small pilot, and you really don't know what you don't know. And having this device at a patient's home actually gives the physician and the provider an understanding of what's going on with that patient. If they don't take their heart failure medications exactly as prescribed, they're going to end up in the hospital. And really they were prior to this program. It also helped us recognize some barriers so that we could help remove them. For instance, we found that some patients weren't refilling their medications because logistically they couldn't. They didn't have a vehicle, they didn't have a ride, whatever it was. So we're able to quickly put a medication delivery service in place for those patients, which is something we probably wouldn't have even known about if we weren't really closely tracking that patient's adherence. So super exciting stuff in the world of remote patient monitoring. And at this point, we're really only scratching the surface. And next slide, please. Another core mission of our strategy is to leverage technology to improve connection and really be an even more human-centered medical center than we are today. And as others have talked about, the buzzwords, one of the ways we're doing that is artificial intelligence. So we've recently partnered with a technology company called Notable Health, also from up north, and they use this next-gen combination of AI, robotic processing automation, or RPA, optical character recognition, I think I said that right, which is OCR, but I think those are that's what it is, to automate administrative and clinical workflows that really don't even need to be touched by a human. So think about things like registering a patient, or appointment reminders, getting an appointment scheduled based on a fax referral that comes in, ensuring that patients are closing important care gaps like colorectal or cervical cancer screening. All of that can actually be automated. And And so we've really invested in this and other AI technologies because, like most healthcare organizations right now and other industries too, staffing is tough, retention is really tough, financials are really tough. And we need our staff and our providers working to the top of their scope. And they really want to be working to the top of their scope. I mean, they want to be with the patients in front of them, making connections, versus transcribing information and typing on a computer. So very exciting stuff going on with the AI as well. And then just last but not least, you can change to the next slide. The last mission of our strategy is to build a program with the voice of the community member. We want to really make sure that we're not building this program in a vacuum and assuming that we know what patients want, but actually engaging with them and asking them. And we're doing that in multiple modalities, surveys, but also in-person events and other ways as well. So that's it. I think you can go to the next slide, which I think is, just a thank you. And also very happy to answer questions tonight, or also can provide my contact information to the group for follow-up. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Meg. That was great. That was fascinating on several levels. I like that you address the notion that I think of as innovators building features rather than products, and not thinking from a systems point of view, and kind of leaving the systems integration work to the company they're selling to, and that just does not work. So there's some really good lessons about innovation there.
Thank you.
So excellent. And we have a request for some contact information, if you'd be willing to put that into the chat.
Yep, I'll put it in the chat, definitely.
And a question about, does Montage Health have a digital patient navigator on site and available to help our community members sign up, navigate, learn to use, and provide technical assistance via Epic's MyChart app?
That is a great question. No, we don't, but it is something that we're working on. I mean, navigation is such a big problem. We have all these tools. We've got urgent cares, we've got an ED, we've got our hospital, we've got our primary care, we've got e-visits. And so it's really hard for patients to navigate where to go when they have specific conditions. And that is definitely something for 2023, is to automate some of that process. So coming soon.
Fabulous. Well, I'm a longtime fan of Montage Health and the innovation, and I still think that the community hospital there is the most fabulous building for a hospital. It doesn't feel like a hospital. It really feels like a place of healing, which is unique. Most hospitals feel awful.
Yeah, that was innovation, right? It still is, but that was innovation.
Yeah, it still is. Think this many years later, and it's still a leader. All right. Well, that brings us to our final presenter, Josh, to bring it all home here with the Drone Automation and Robotics Technology Initiative.
Thanks, Brad. And thanks everybody for hanging in there. I know we're up to the limit here. And so I'm going to talk about our program. Some of you may have seen it at the recent conference. But before I do that, I thought it was great listening to you, Meg, and just hearing about the process, your sort of methodical process of learning and innovating and bringing things back and, kind of refining in a stepwise way. That I love hearing about that when, people are talking about programs like you're working on another innovation. So, that's great. Thank you for sharing that. And Rob, it's always entertaining and engaging. It's not hard to understand where you would have an impact on creating the famous tagline that Vegas is still known for, as you sort of tease your Phil Collins and then close with the reference. So solid move there.
Hey, Josh, I kind of feel like every speaker before you is sort of leading up and you're the headliner. So, man, take it away.
Yeah, well, I'll do my best here, but you did call out our friend Kristen Coates, who is also on the line here. And for folks who may not yet have had the chance to meet Kristen, she's leading a pretty cool sounding project called Regenerative Monterey.
Thank you.
Yeah, of Second Muse, and she's got some great things going with that. So I think we'll be learning more about that in the months ahead. I appreciate the chance to talk with you earlier, Kristen. Dennis, of course, he's always super interesting to listen to. I always learn things from him, and appreciate the focus, the way that their program has evolved to really focus on particular things they need rather than sort of waiting for their solutions to come through the door, so to speak. So, that's good. And, his note that, having a global brand recognition helps attract investment. And I think that applies across the economy of Monterey's, various sectors. So that's cool. And of course, Richard with his various grant programs and vehicles for, connecting state programs to locals, super valuable. And then with Tahra, I thought one thing that stuck out for me there was, where she referenced the process of partnership. And indeed that, in my experience, much like relationships, partnership requires more than one engagement. And so, I think Tahra's done, she's done an amazing job in her, rather short yet growing tenure with MBEP coming in, in the middle of this pandemic and stepping into, a moving train and really, taking the reins of the organization and finding ways for it to move and evolve. And so it's great to have her and her team. And so you'll hear in my talk, a number of references to these partnerships and collaborations that we've built and are working with to really, introduce a new, and I'd call that an emerging group of technology sectors to the economy, hoping to grow them to be maybe not one or two, but up there in terms of their impact and in terms of salary, in terms of tax revenue generation, and just in terms of the diversification of the economy, taking advantage of some of the great attributes that Monterey region offers, and really creating new companies with products and services that are totally relevant to our key drivers, economic drivers, but then also exportable products and services that can bring in new revenue to the county. So the next slide would kind of first highlight some of the geographic attributes that we have talked about since the beginning of this particular initiative, which has its roots in the 26-year Fort Ord reuse mission that closed in June of 2020. But things like, the multitude of higher education institutions around the region, which, are fairly well distributed from Santa Cruz into Salinas, and at least on the peninsula and on the coastal side of the county, and certainly, there are institutions farther up and some down south too that are not represented here. But that rich culture of education yields, smart and engaged and, skilled people. And, we got started back in 2017 and have kind of gone through our own evolutionary process, most recently gaining a fairly sizable contribution from the Irvine Foundation to help us move forward. And so we have a mission. I think the next slide, Lynette, there would get us to, oh, this is our board. I don't want to miss showing these faces and names. These are some of them you'll recognize here, and great people who are helping guide our program. And you can learn more about them on our website. But the next slide is really what I was wanting to illustrate. Like you, Rob, I like to think of catchy things, and so our dartboard is reflecting that. But really, it's all the different sectors where these technologies have application, and then really the idea that it's workforce training and education and focused investment that will kind of activate the whole ecosystem, and really with these 4 categories of social organization, industry, government, academia, and of course our community being central. So really what we're talking about with these technologies, and we'll just kind of roll through some pictures here, have to do with these new ways of moving robots and sensors around to do things like post-fire recovery, to look at marine ecosystems in the next slide, and map things like the extent of bulk help around the near shore zone. Kristen and I earlier were talking about the whole blue economy and the way the urchin are putting major pressure on these bulk help colonies up and down the north coast here, to using these technologies for things like inspecting wind power and other utilities infrastructure. Those are some of the great uses of these tools, and we already have a base of economic development and innovators in the region who have built companies and exited from those companies, and they've grown, and some which are growing and are market leading. So this is kind of the nugget from which we are building, and really it extends well beyond the flying things. And as Dennis mentioned, ag is increasingly automated, and so both in the processing in the processing plants as well as in the fields. And so that the next picture shows this great machine called the Titan, which is a automated weeding robot. And for anyone who knows anything about fresh produce, well, you got to distinguish the plants you want from the weeds, and this utilizes AI and vision, machine learning, vision technologies to do that and do it efficiently. So it's becoming increasingly common to see these up and down the fields of the Salinas Valley. And this is a company that is founded in San Francisco, but now has a strong presence in Salinas and kind of moves around as the seasons progress, and is growing. It's one of Dennis's, I think, success stories through his incubator. So really, we start focusing on, there is the technology, but underlying that, of course, is and the value for the community has to do with things like new jobs and pathways to family supporting wages. And so that's become a big part of our focus, especially with the growth of companies like Joby. And here's an apprentice that's part of this apprenticeship program we have started with Joby. There are other jobs in ag in terms of, folks who might not be doing field work, but now might be involved in maintenance of robots that are used in the packaging, like this guy working on a Taylor Farms plant, or the folks who might be, kind of high level engineers and programming the software. And there's just a whole range of different positions that, we just have to kind of reorient ourselves and train up for, to be able to really prepare our people for the future, but also be effective in supporting the growing companies that are really that are real and are happening and growing in our area. And so that's also become a big focus of our efforts. And so, there's no better example of that or right now than Joby Aviation, which, many of you may know is growing a manufacturing capability there at the Marina Airport. And my origins on this whole thing come from my work with the Fort Ord Reeves Authority, and was involved with some of the early stages of landing Joby's program at the airport, and that has continued. And now they're in a place where they're, on the verge of making a major commitment to a large manufacturing facility there. And so we're continuing to work to support and minimize roadblocks and hurdles, bumps in the road that are making that decision easier for their board to make. So if you want more information all about this, you can find it at our website. And especially, I mentioned this in the beginning, we just had a great conference, 2-day conference in November and December. And so, a lot of great speakers. Now we have all of this on the web. Video recordings of the main sessions. And I think, we came away from those 2 days with awareness kind of at the global level of the potential of this, aviation market, as well as, the need and the opportunity for us to develop a workforce that's going to be able to support Joby's success, as well as allow other companies then around this ecosystem to develop different applications, beyond mobility. So I'm just going to run through a few of the things that we're taking on this year just to give a little flavor of that, and then I'll quickly wrap up. The first one I've mentioned already is our apprenticeship program, which we got started and is continuing to grow with these full-time paid apprenticeships. And really what we want to show is that with a population of relatively unfamiliar to aerospace engineering, we can, in a short period of time, develop people that can do these very advanced manufacturing techniques. So that's something that's happening. We just recently worked in support of our growing partnership with the UC Ag and Natural Resource Division in support of this NSF Climate Smart Agri-Food Innovation Engine. And that is a phase 2 NSF grant proposal that would bring in significant funding for a statewide kind of agri-food innovation network in the state. We also do our drone camp that's coming up again in June in partnership with Citrus Cider and UC Ag and Natural Resources. And that we're also involved in a DART skills demand study that'll be rapidly rolling out here in the next few months. Expanding our partnership with CSUMB, which builds on doing programs like tonight. We're also taking on a workforce training center feasibility study that would look specifically at the site selection, industry demands, skills program structures, and format for a building that would train people not only for Joby manufacturing jobs, but for a wide range of kind of tech-oriented work in this space. We have an ongoing partnership, an expanding partnership with NASA and the FAA in a program called COSTA, which is a cross-cutting operations strategy and technical assessment. This is being led by one of our board members, Chris Belay, which is really opening up the opportunity for us to do more flying and testing and development in the Monterey Bay region to grow our area kind of as a global center for this kind of activity. And Rob, you can go ahead and do that if when the time is right. The next one I'll mention is our Central Coast Flight Information Exchange, and there's a website down there you can learn more about this, which again is a program to establish sort of a mid-level situational awareness capacity for drone operations and help improve safety with regards to national airspace operations. And then finally, let's see, is that final? I got just 3 more, and then I'll be wrapping up here. But this is our ongoing activity. This is the vision of the Joby manufacturing facility at the Marina Airport. And so we're working with all these partners currently to really build a compelling case for the Joby board that indeed this can work here in Marina, and they should go forward and make this happen. The first of probably 5 or 6 plants that they're going to need to build, not only here, but around the country and around the world. We also have a pretty cool program that we have just formed a partnership with NavalX Tech Bridge down in Ventura, which is, they have this whole maritime port and safety program. And so we're connecting our ecosystem members in the sort of the innovation space, the small companies that are around here like Parallel Flight with it's sort of a testing and development ecosystem that they operate. So these are vehicles that make it more attractive for not only regional companies, but even national and international companies that think about Monterey as a center for connecting with, these much larger markets. And Tahra mentioned the next one, which is this Uplift Central Coast coalition that we've been part of since the 2021. And we've put multiple proposals together now, best represented by this NSF and the SURF programs that really are trying to bring a focus across the Central Coast and leverage the existing assets of Vandenberg Air Force Base, activities in San Luis Obispo and Ventura, and up here in Monterey as creating this Central Coast Airspace Innovation Corridor. And so I know that Rob and I, we've been coordinating on some pretty exciting potential, and we'll just move to the last slide where you can learn out, encouragement to stay connected. And I would pass the mic back to Rob to talk about a little bit about what we're doing with this exciting potential.
Well, yeah, I just wanted to throw in that, all roads, when we talk about innovation, what's taking place here, innovation is our superpower as a region. And that's what we leverage as much as possible. And Josh and I were going back and forth recently on an international conference, bringing that here, which Josh, you can talk about to the degree that you're comfortable, because it's not a done deal. But the notion is to bring that here because we're a hub of innovation, because of what's taking place with Joby and what Josh is doing with DART. We showcase that. And that makes other people want to bring their meetings here. And remember, I said meetings are very, very valuable. And what do we have that others don't have? It's that legacy of inspiration and innovation, and turning inspiration into innovation, whether you're talking about the TED conference being invented here to a variety of other things. So I just wanted to note that this sort of, Josh is the one who said, hey, I've got this dot over here. I want to connect it to this dot that you're focused on. Maybe we can make something happen, and we'll see what happens from there. But I would invite that from anybody. That's all valuable into driving our tourism economy.
Yeah, thanks, Rob. Yeah, I mean, there are tremendous linkages between all of these things, the drivers of the economy in Monterey, whether it's ag and the food that the people eat that are going to come here and, and get inspired and do all this stuff. So there's really, just a more and more to build on there. I will note, that all this work that I'm able to be involved in wouldn't happen without many of the people here on the call. Shari, Brad, Mary Jo, Lynette, they're all part of our team. And Doreen, I see Doreen here, and Abigail's down there. So, there's more than I'm probably missing. But the point is that, we're, able to move things, like Tahra said, by kind of working, together. And so I think just, there's a lot of really exciting things, some that I haven't even totally mentioned. And we'll talk more about those when they become right. But yeah, I think it's great to start the year with some excitement about what's coming, and glad to have the chance to pass along some of that excitement here. And I don't know what else you want there, Brad. You got any more for us?
Wow, that was a lot. Thanks, Josh. Thanks to all of our presenters. A ton of information, and I think what's really cool is presenting this area as one that is a world center for innovation, and with our own particular style of innovation here that is trying to create a progressive economy and at the same time preserve the ecology of the area, because we all want to keep living here because it's such a beautiful place to live. Really cool things happening in many different sectors. Thanks to each and all of the presenters for adding their particular view, and thanks to all the people who stayed with us tonight. It's been a pretty rich evening here. So let us roll and bring this to a wonderful close. Thanks to the sponsors and partners who make this event possible every month. We do this on the second Tuesday of pretty much every month. Let's roll next. What's our next slide here? But don't forget Startup Factory coming the first weekend in February. If you or someone you know is starting a business, this is a great place to get it started, get some coaching at the same time, and get involved in starting a business at Startup Factory. Next, and we'll see you in February. Looks like we're going to be on the 21st, the second Tuesday is our normal meeting time, but that's Valentine's Day. And while we love you all and you love us, probably you should be with somebody else on Valentine's Day. So we'll be on the 21st of February. And we look forward to seeing you at Startup Factory and at next month's Startup Connect, where we'll be featuring the winners of this year's Startup Factory. Thanks to all and have a great evening.